have forgotten his points, but I see him with a paper. Karibu Daktari.
Thank you so much, Alex. I want to recognize Chief Guest representing of Dr. Raymond Omolo, the PS in charge of internal security. We usually refer to him as Sirikal, so that is our Sirikal, and of course all the PSS presence. But in the category of PSS, there is a guy if I don't recognize, ananileteanga shida. Anaitwa Dean. No, Dean, hebu simama na wave to the crowd. So it's Alex Washira, he's the Dean or the Chair of the PSS, and of course I recognize all the protocols as stipulated. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Mine is just to make a reflection of yesterday's event. And I'll start by saying that day one of the third annual Raas conference was centered on one core question: are regulatory authorities and agencies delivering measurable impact on the ground? And therefore, the discussions consistently challenged the regulators to move beyond activities, compliance reports, and procedural outputs towards evidence-based demonstrations of real change in the lives of our citizens. And ladies and gentlemen, the conference was officially opened by His Excellency the Deputy President, Honorable Professor Kithure Kindiki, who underscored the following: that one, regulatory authorities and agencies are the most visible expression of government in the daily lives of our wananchi. And he noted that whatever we do, especially in the area of buildings when they collapse, pollution when they persist, markets become unfair, and when citizens face unsafe conditions, these are ultimately the failures of regulation. And conversely, ladies and gentlemen, when we have strong, fair, and predictable regulation, we build trust for government and we stimulate national and development. Again, in his opening remarks, the Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service, who is the host of this event, we reflected on a 3-year journey on revitalization and re-energization of the Raas campaign. And he highlighted the following: that the government deliberately undertook an evidence-based review of the regulatory ecosystem after identifying unlimited measurement of impact. And the campaign has therefore sought to restore clarity of the mandates. A major highlight, ladies and gentlemen, of the morning session was the presentation on the milestones of the revitalization and re-energization, the evolution of the campaign from the inception in 2023 to the present. The conference also received a detailed analysis of the biannual report submitted by the Raas campaign team and presented by, while reporting obligations rising from 84.5% in 2025 and 96% in 2026. And while this reflected growing institutional discipline, a concern was raised that 12 agencies still failed to submit a core statutory report, raising broader questions about the regulatory credibility and accountability. And I presume the 12 regulatory agencies are not themselves. The analysis led further to reveal several recurring challenges across the regulatory landscape, including inadequate staffing constraints, outdated regulatory frameworks, and manual licensing systems. But one of the most important reflections, ladies and gentlemen, of the day was concerning the mandate clarity. And we were able to hear that in the conference that some students continue to view themselves as implementing agencies rather than regulators, despite the fact that the enabling statutes conferring both implementation and regulatory functions. And I think we had that some agencies are contemplating making amendments to their acts so that they just become implementers and not regulators. The afternoon session, ladies and gentlemen, we shifted towards practical experiences from individual Raas on measuring regulatory impact beyond traditional government performance frameworks. And therefore, the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority, PPRA, demonstrated how data-driven regulation can improve the oversight through tools such as procurement audits, procurement information, information portals, investigation, and etc. The National Authority for Campaign Against Alcohol and Drug Abuse, NACADA, emphasized the importance of measuring social and behavioral impact beyond formal compliance indicators. And Akada, ladies and gentlemen, highlighted the use of surveys, rapid track interventions. EPRA, Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Institutions, showcase Kenya's regional leadership in the regulatory regime, performance through participation in strong regulatory governance, substance, and outcomes within the energy sector. Another major thread throughout the day was the growing recognition that regulatory work must be visible, it must be measurable, and felt by citizens. That are we carrying the people along? And speakers repetitively emphasize that the success of government is ultimately judged through everyday experiences, whether we have safe buildings, fair markets, reliable energy, accountable procurement systems, clean environments, and effective public protection mechanisms. And ladies and gentlemen, the day concluded with reflections on emerging themes and new learnings, emphasizing that regulators must increasingly transition from process-oriented institutions into impact-driven organizations, anchored on evidence, accountability, transparency, and measurable outcomes. In summary, ladies and gentlemen, Day 1 affirmed 4 key messages. 1, that regulation is one of the clearest expressions of government at work, and therefore we must be able to stick and deliver on the same. Secondly, that measuring real impact is now more important than measuring activities alone. That impacts on the ground are also important than just having several activities in the work of life. And thirdly, that strong regulation requires coordination, feasibility, accountability, and evidence-based programming. And number 4, that the future of the Raas campaign depends on regulators embracing self-direction, innovation, and continuous improvement. I thank you, God bless you, and I wish you a fruitful day ahead. Asante sana. Thank you.
Indeed, that's Dr. Engineer Festus Ngeno, PhD, CBS. And it's very clear that the good Dr. Engineer was paying attention yesterday during the session. Allow me now, ladies and gentlemen, to invite Srikal to come and make a reflection. Dr. Raymond Omolo to just give his reflections of the day yesterday. Karibu, Srikal.
Alex, sounds like you want me fired. My PS colleagues, led by the Dean, PS Energy Alex Washira, the chairs, CEOs, company secretaries, directors, heads of internal audit. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning once again. You guys look very tired this early morning. Now, as we try to do the reflections, I was also just reflecting, and I was asking myself, and probably maybe there are a number of you who have also been asking themselves. At the end of yesterday, I think we still had some of our colleagues share with us their reflections of the day. And then we have begun today with a series of reflections of yesterday. And at one point I was asking myself whether it is necessary, because I think at the risk of repeating what everybody has said since yesterday evening and today, but then I thought again that the team in the executive office of the president must be up to something. And if I'm thinking right, I think the whole point is how well do we appreciate why we are here, and are we carrying all of us along? I know there was a conversation yesterday whether in all our activities we carry the people with us. I think what the Secretariat is trying to do is, even before we carry Kenyans with us, are we carrying ourselves with us? So if you are having that question in your mind, at least I have tried to answer it based on what I think. And for me, this is important because we carry a very noble responsibility as regulators or as regulatory agencies. And just looking at where we are today and where we were 3 years ago, and the appreciation that we have 129 agencies that are responsible for matters regulations. And these 129 agencies are spread over in 40 state departments, represented by my PS colleagues, me included. And looking at the theme for this year's conference, which is on consistent measurement and evaluation of real regulatory impact on the ground, I think we've talked about so many stories, how what we do impact what happens on the ground. And for sure, when we began, we all agree that we had mandates that were spread all over. There was a lot of fragmentation. I'm not sure whether that has been fully addressed as we sit here today. Of course, duplications, overlaps, and a lot of concerns from the public in terms of the delays they experience whenever they want services accessed. And I remember yesterday over lunch I was trying to share with Hops that when we began, we had a lot of cases that we were dealing with, from collapsed buildings, from people going blind, having taken some drinks that are not properly prepared. And today, even though we still have isolated cases, we must all agree that a lot has improved, even when we still need to do so much. So as colleagues, I just wanted to emphasize the fact that yes, we are the face of government on the ground before the public. What is the public saying about what we do? Is there an improvement? And if there is no improvement, what is it that we need to do so that we change course? And as we go into the 4th year, we also need not to lose sight of the fact that we have an election next year, which we have to win, and we will be winning it on account of having delivered across board. So as a regulator, what is your contribution in that win? Have we fully lived up to the bottom-up economic transformation agenda that is being spearheaded by His Excellency the President? And if we need, or if you need support, I think one of the takeaways from this conference tomorrow would be, what is that support and who is it that is supposed to give us that support? Maybe 2 closing points is that there is an issue around public awareness, how the public perceives us, and then there is public satisfaction. Are the citizens satisfied with the services that we give them, or that is expected of us? And without overemphasizing the centrality of the citizens in service delivery and why they must be our center of focus. They are our bosses, and we must go out of our way to be able to make sure that they are happy. And the reality is that this country is changing in monumental ways. If you look at the infrastructure development that is going on across the country, if you look at the houses that we are building, and in not so distant future, then this that we are undertaking is going to come with a lot of challenges that will require that as regulators, we are on top of our game. So will we have enough power to light the house that Hinga and team is building? Will we have enough water that serves those homes? Will we have enough sewer connections to us taking a lot of lessons from this conference? We have an opportunity to interact, to hear what is happening. As a PS for Internal Security and National Administration, like I did say last year, is that we have the infrastructure and the ecosystem that you can rely on to support you in your regulatory work. We have the infrastructure that goes all the way to the villages. And I just want to invite you to take advantage to support you in your work. Thank you so much, and I'm wishing you good deliberations for the day, even as we look to the closure of the third conference tomorrow. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, PS. And maybe just a quick commentary from what you have said and what also PS, Dr. Engineer Festus indicated. As at yesterday, yes, we did indicate that we had not received returns from 12 agencies. That was the case, but that has since changed. There has been some sort of compliance, and we have received 9 in the course of the day yesterday. So the balance of 3, we hope before we close the conference tomorrow, that will all be 100% compliance. And indeed, Dr. what you have indicated, the reflections are basically what it is that, are we carrying everybody with us? Are we all here? Do we understand the message that is being put across for all of us? Now, we will then go to the next part of the program, and just allow me to notify you that there is a slight change. We will have the Chief of Staff speak when he comes in, as well as the Chief of Staff, Office of the Deputy President, speak at that time. So we'll go straight into the session where we have CEOs who are doing case studies, institutional work plans geared towards achieving effective regulatory control. And as the 4 presenters prepare themselves to come up, allow me to invite Mr. Bosire, Douglas Bosire, 60 seconds to just make a quick commentary or note about the tent they have at the back, who will also be followed by Ms. Salma Kwamboka, the chairperson of the Counseling and Psychologist Board, again 60 seconds to just make some quick remarks.
Thank you very much, Alex. The representative of the Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service this morning, PS Raymond, and the Dean of colleague CEOs, the chairpersons, and other distinguished delegates who are here this morning. My name is Bosire Douglas. I'm happy to get this opportunity just to highlight on what we are doing out there. Basically is around HIV and the other endemic conditions. So out there, we set up a booth just to remind ourselves that the response to HIV might have made significant progress, but we cannot confuse that progress for success. We have to integrate it with other health and wellness issues. So that's why our booth out there today, we are talking about screening for non-communicable diseases, attention. We're also doing nutritional counseling. We are doing HIV testing and screening and counseling services. And indeed, just as a demonstration of what we were able to do yesterday, actually we were able to screen services there. We screened around 150 clients for what we call rapid blood sugar. Rapid blood sugar is for diabetes, the nutritional perspectives, where we got out of the 75 whom we screened yesterday, around 5 of them were movement. We have a policy for strengthening and digitalizing the HIV response at the workplace alongside other endemic diseases. So PSS, CEOs, and the chairs who are here will be reaching out to you so that we can revitalize that important aspect. as we march towards ending these public health threats by the year 2030. Thank you very much, and may God bless you.
Allow me to ride on the protocols already established because I've been given 60 seconds, so that my time starts now. So good morning. How many of you know of a councillor? I would like to just lift up your hand. I'm not going to ask. How many of you know of a councillor? At least on every table I can see a hand up. Okay. How many of year's theme is more good days together? So we all know that there is no health without mental health. And WHO already states that depression is now the leading cause of disability worldwide. I don't know how many of you. All right, mental health has no face. So you cannot say that someone is sick. And we always hear someone saying, kwani mimi nimechizi? Why should I go and see her? Stigmatized. So the Ministry of Health also confirmed that 1 in 4 Kenya suffers mental health condition, and suicide has become one of the leading cause of death amongst our youth. And it is not only our youth, it is also, who knew? Yeah, very few of us know. So I will go ahead and introduce myself. I am Salma Komboka. I'm the chairperson of Counselors in Psychology and call themselves a counselor. More good days together, you ask. It means awareness must lead by action, because if Kenyans land in unqualified hands, my senior colleagues, let's keep this space together. And the people whom I am talking to in particular could be KMPDC, endemic, just to see how mental health in relation to HIV. So colleagues, we are new in operation, that's true, but our mandate is that there's no health without mental health.
Thank you very much, and indeed more good days together. All right, allow me now to introduce Mary Teresa Agutu to come in the order that we have called them, starting with Dr. Ahmed Mohamed. If you could be making your way to the stage. We all have the program and the certain questions that we ask this panel to respond to. Karibu sana, Daktari.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Alex. Secretaries, please allow me to ride on the already established protocols. Pharmacy and Poisons Board is actually one of the oldest institutions in the country. Medicine is misused, it becomes a poison. So in doing our preparation of work plan, we have about 1 month. So by 1st June, always 1st June, the work plan is ready, and it is initiated by the manager. We break the objectives into activities. We define clear KPIs and output. Then we are assigned roles. Once we have the draft, we visual memos to the directors. It goes to the deputy directors all the way to the staff. Each staff here is assigned a role and a responsibility during that regulatory milestones. And our mandate is basically to ensure that they are effective and good drugs. So we inspect the pharmacy. That is the retail shops. We do inspect also wholesalers. On wholesalers, this is the high risk area. Once a product, we have challenges in porous borders where unregistered goods, they were involved in selling unregistered and substandard product. We also do focus on local manufacturing, but if you see, usually the inspections are more. So what we do is, if we know substandard products or unregistered product in the market, and it also increases the public confidence, which have expired, the license has expired 5 years. What we told them to re-register the product, and in this time, you changeable in terms of therapeutic effectiveness. Next, please. And this is 324. We trained 1,308 health workers. In 2024-25, we take action. And during that period, we gave 8 public safety communication, and some of the products were actually with the government is to take closer service to the people. And in this period, what we did is we operationalized all our regional office from, let's say, Wajir to Nairobi to do an examination has stopped because we use these 10 regions to conduct examination, and so far we've used them all to reach out to people and interact and tell us what is the problem, is there any issue. And in this case also we have something called post-market surveillance that monitors the drugs. Pharmacovigilance monitors the adverse reaction to the drug. And the MAPIT was among the 2 regulatory bodies in Africa operating. And we have actually taken up this encouraging issue of substandards and the falsified product. Because some people view it as a business, some view it.
Let me adopt the protocols that have already been established. Not clear. So permit me to ride on the protocol that has already legal education in a university before being admitted as an advocate must then do a by-exam, and that by-exam, after going to the Kenya School of Law, is administered, is to regulate legal education through licensing of legal education providers. And those are the core mandates that it has. I want to make them to whom. Number 3, we want to look at the implementation of the work plan. That is the tracking and monitoring as well as evaluation. And lastly, to just highlight some of the notable where before we even do anything, we review the performance of the previous financial year, and then we set out priorities for the new year, and we then develop that into the work plan. And this is done through this committee. We consolidate the organization's work plan, and then by consolidation, we have a single organizational work plan where there is validation of dissemination to the directorates and division, in as much as they're the ones who have created this work plan, leads to ownership as an organization. Then there is the approval of the work plan that has been adopted, and this is then disseminated not just within the staff and within the organization, to assess the contribution that is made in the realization of the of the 2 strategic mandates that I have highlighted. What do we track? Quarterly and midterm reporting by the directorates and divisions who submit then their report. And then it is also monitored through the internal audit process, which then has a review by management identifying the new and pending activities that were not achieved. So there may be activities that for one or another may not have been achieved, perhaps because of intervening circumstances, or new activities that need then to be addressed within that timeline. So we do that midterm review to see if there are those activities, the budgetary allocation that we have, so that we are able to also finance the activities. There's an annual review, there's the impact assessment, and there's the feedback mechanism that we have developed that we can report first within the financial year 2023-24,
There was the development and launch of the strategic plan, very interactive and inclusive process, and was launched in 19th of April 2024. We have now improved the accreditation compliance. I think twice a year, if you look at the Gazette notices and public information that we supply, we provide information about the institutions that have been accredited as legal education provider through licensing. Exemplary, and this has reflected in the performance that we receive, where we achieve a very good score in performance contracting. We have also improved the gazettement time. Audited as an institution for accreditation, you have very clear timelines that you know, and therefore it doesn't depend on our whims and fancies. We have predictable timelines for the release of the advocates training examination, and the exam actually is part of the calendar. It's done twice a year. The dates are known even for the next 5 years. You know when the exams are going to happen because we have planned it in advance. Then we have also this approach for strict adherence to the timelines, and we have been achieving 100% budget absorption and 0 pending bills. We do not have any pending bills. The other regulatory impacts that are notable within the 24-25 financial year is that CLE has developed 2 important regulations, and that is a basis on which then we are going to be conducting our activities. One is the regulation, one is the quality assurance regulation. These regulations are very critical because then they address those 2 core areas and mandates that we have. The challenge, again, key legislative instruments. Right now, we are now in the process of tabling it before Parliament to make it effective. There is the implementation of the examination reforms where students came to occupy CLE because they perceived that our work was not being done with them in mind. So we have reduced the time, the turnaround for examinations within a month and a half. The results would be out. We have improved CLE ERP system where the candidates can now view the individual result unit and in each of the questions that you attempted in that paper. We have introduced quarterly candidates engagement, which are physical and virtual engagements. We engage the ATP examiners and the candidates to offer guidance on common standards and also indicate the common pitfalls to the students. Now we are, as has been indicated, being people-centered. Our approach is to look at the people who are the recipients of our services. We also collect feedbacks on the examination process so that we are engaging that mwananchi to understand that there is no intention we have in failing students, but rather we want to be very, very facilitative. In terms of regulation, license applications have now increased with notable growth in new legal education providers. The application processes have been improved and compliance have been enforced through partnership with those institutions. Now we do not look at ourselves as wielders of the stick, but rather we look at ourselves as partnering with these institutions to guarantee that they can offer quality by letting themselves develop the commitments for which then we work with them to ensure implementation. So this has improved the licensing process, and currently we have about 20 licenses are coming up. I know there is the question of market saturation, but as a council, what we have asked ourselves in order to determine whether or not to accredit this institution, if an institution complies with the standards that we have set out, is there a reason that we would accredit institution A and deny accreditation to institution B? So if they have all met the rigorous set out standards, then we accredit all of them. We have also improved communication. I think those who are part of the social media now receive almost daily notification of important issues and activities that are being undertaken by council. I'm sure by end day today, you will even have a note on this presentation. So we have done within CLE. Last year, we held the inaugural conference on the future of legal education to just try and bring out all the stakeholders, help us understand what developments we need to adopt as we acclimatize ourselves to the new legal education regulation. And for the students that are coming in, especially now we are looking at, in 3 years, receiving the CBC students. And we were asking ourselves, would we still teach the same way we teach today? Would we still accredit the way we accredit today? Do we need to, for example, change the core courses that need to be administered in universities or at the ATP more effectively with other regulatory agencies? Actually, a challenge that we had, and the Chief of Staff sought to address it, is the siloed approach our regulatory mandate. I thank you.
I just want to make a short announcement. If you look at the program, you know that we don't have a tea break. And that is actually intentional, so that we also save on time, but we have running teas. Moja moja to quietly take your tea and then come back so that we also manage time. The only break we will have today is a lunch break, but if the sugar level, you and karibu Dr. Agut.
I want to write. And as a board, we are interested in ensuring that your food is always safe. Yes, we had the same question to do. So if you talk to me, I'm passionate, very passionate. I dream, I drink, I bleed veterinary. This morning I met one of the capacity building in pipeline development and inspection and animal welfare to protect the public and even the animals. And I have a gatekeeper role where we ensure the courses are prescribed, institutions are approved, we assess qualifications are competent, license the clinics, and also issue practice licenses. If you have been around Kitui this week, you discover our who is not conducting themselves professionally, then the board will come in, and these are the areas that we are working on, the regulatory conduct that I've just mentioned. A few shops have been closed down for lack of compliance, but we are working on them to facilitate them to get to engraved or integrated into our work plans, where we give advisory to government on training, research, and practice, and also presented, ensuring that the medicines, devices, equipment that are used in veterinary practice are up to standard. So these are what we have, which then promote sustainable national economic development and improve on the overall well-being of livestock and the communities. So the SDGs, we are anchored increase of smallholder incomes, increasing agricultural outputs and value addition, Kenya Vision 2030, the bottom up, welfare, public health, and sustainable livestock production. So in light of this, the Kenya Veterinary Board driving the transformation of veterinary sector, the animal health sector in this country. And when we talk animal health, we are talking about the livestock in the homes, the wildlife, the companion animals which are so dear to us. You can see development, we encourage continuous professional development, integrated public health, where we work in collaboration with the human health, environment, have a strong enforcement and high integrity platform, Innovation and technology are encouraged in the animal health sector, and having strategic partnerships and global positions. So we are doing a good job because we are doing what we are supposed to be doing. In tracking our work plans, we track using the key result areas and service delivery. And these we have done with a key engine of developing the capacity to collection, improve on governance and staff capacity, and also enhance stakeholder engagement and communication. Sessions and communication. Sessions and IEC materials. We are inspiring public confidence by continuous sensitization and awareness creation during farmer field days around immunization and awareness creation during farmer field days around in terms of indexing of students, renewal of membership, that is compliance. You notice that on new practitioners being registered also looks like it is down. That is practitioners being registered also looks like it is down. That is because internship ended a little late this year. Sons that are available. Internship ended a little late this year. Sons that are available to offer services to our to the farmers and all the other stakeholders. Then on matters of next slide, please. We have happy chicken. And when you have happy chicken, you have happy eggs. I hope you can fill them on your tables when you eat them. And that is because we want more eggs. I don't know how many eggs each child in your house is able to eat in a week, but we are encouraging that all children in this country are able to have. Very much. The last slide, we have happier professionals, we have a healthier nation, and the safety of the public. Next slide, please. Mekata. Okay. Fine. I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to stand before you. Thank you very much for the organization. It has really been a wonderful time interacting with colleagues and networking. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Agutu. Thank you very much, Professor. Again, we thank you very much. We have seen some very serious interactions on the app. We have seen people ask questions, and we've also seen people answer questions. And these are two questions that have come during this session. It's a live session. And since you're all registered in the app, please let's just interact in there. There's a question to the Pharmacy and Poisons Board, or a comment. The enforcement should focus on the manufacturer and importers and not the retailer. If well controlled, harmful products will not reach the consumers. And that's from an anonymous user. Another anonymous user, and I believe this is directed to Dr. Agutu, are you aware that there is a supposed embargo on pets coming into the country by air, which is being implemented by airlines, yet nobody has the written policy? Okay, I know GOK is very good at writing policies. Another anonymous user. But these are the kind of the conversations that are going on in the app. Please, if we can have the team from the Pharmacy and Poisons Board respond to the ones that are addressed to them, as well as those from the Kenya Veterinary Board. Again, it's important that we have those interactions later on in the day, and I think on the side screens, you're able to see the instructions on how to interact in the app. We are all registered in the app, so I think it's a small issue. Most of you are very active in our last conference using the same app. Let's also see those engagements. Let us ask questions, let us give feedback, let us also give comments so that we make the sessions as interactive as possible, and noting that we do not have the time for the Q&A that will be required for them to respond to all the questions you may have. But feel free to have all these interactions in the app and see the responses. And we also, it's not that we do not like anonymous users, but there are also very many other users who ask questions using their names, because you want to make someone learn something or do better or improve. Now, as I wait for the team to set up seats on stage, and I believe as other chairpersons reflect on what will, as other chairpersons, it's important as a few things and to share some of the experiences and best practices in their role as chairpersons. We then look forward to a very engaging
cryptocurrencies that are coming up, the issues of carbon markets and various. The reason they don't like them is because they feel they're adding costs, they're hindering productivity, they're hindering innovation. As you know, innovation always.
My name is Winfrida Ngumi, Board Chair, Kenya National Highways Authority. Our mandate is to manage, rehabilitate, maintain, and develop your national trunk roads. That is in terms of mandate, specifically with regards to regulatory mandate. And I want to say that we are one of the institutions in 2023 that were not sure about our regulatory mandate. Had very long, robust discussions, and we are able to say that our regulatory mandate includes axle load control. That's where we protect the road infrastructure by enforcing vehicle weight limits. That's within our weighbridge network. We also control and regulate and manage roadside developments. I'm sure you have seen enforcement actions where we are dealing with encroachers, say for example, on Thika Road. So we enforce highway reserve protections. Also, our role from a regulatory standpoint is also to set and enforce standards and specifications for the construction, maintenance, and operation of national highways. We also have a mandate with regards to oversight of road safety. In previous sessions, we've come under fire about the irregularity of our bumps. That comes now under our regulatory mandate. We also ensure that we provide the public with safe, efficient, the national government on matters relating to national highways.
Multiple regulatory bodies and conflicting statutory provisions limiting effective authority to fulfill mandates, and the institutional capacity gaps and initiatives that undermine corporate governance effectiveness. Basically, what am I saying? I am saying that the execution, first of all, the wisdom behind the setup of the governance structures of state corporations, the upward looking and the downward, the chain itself. I am sure there's a lot of wisdom in it, but has it been perfected? Has it been perfected? This is what the question is. And I feel that there's still gaps in order to reduce friction between both the upward and downward mechanisms in terms of the governance structure. But in overall, is there success in the execution and implementation? I definitely say is a yes. But are there gaps? Definitely. There are both regulatory gaps, there are capacity building gaps, there are issues that needs to be looked at in terms of making sure that that ecosystem works flawlessly. Let me put it that way. That's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Wamatsi, what are your thoughts?
Thank you, Winnie. I have a different view, and I want us to understand what authority are we talking about. From where I sit, I think the authority we're talking about is the ability to deliver on our mandate. And what I can say, where there's no interference, I believe the board chairpersons have enough authority to deliver. One, I'll raise a few, because it's the board led by the chair that appoint the CEO or the director general. That means during your assessment, you make sure you get someone who you believe during the interview processes is someone who's able to deliver. So you get the right person to enable you to deliver on regulatory strategies. Two, the board approves the procurement and budgets for the institutions. So where you have some regulatory strategies or want to achieve certain regulatory outcomes, you only make sure that whatever you want to help you deliver is factored in the procurement plans and is also budgeted for. Another issue, we sign a PC with the ministry. And it's only important that once you sign the PC with the ministry, I have committed the institution. So it gives me that authority that I can engage the management, the CEO and her team to cascade in a manner that they are able to deliver on the deliverables agreed. Finally, of course, the chair is guides the board in decision making by ensuring the board acts within the law, and by that direction, it gives one an authority to deliver. But I write that as long as there's no interference, I believe the chairperson have adequate authority. Thank you.
Genesio, what are your views?
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I want to look at this question from the lens of what is the mandate of the chairperson, the non-executive chairperson. From the Mwongozo, the chair is the leader of the board, the architect and guardian of governance effectiveness, with three core responsibilities or mandates that it needs to oversee. One is the leadership of the board, to set the tone, the discipline, the effectiveness, the integrity of the board. Again, under the same leadership of the board is to ensure deliberations are structured objectively and strategically focused to deliver the mandate of the institution. The second core mandate of the chair is oversight and accountability. Hold management to accountable on performance, on compliance, and the delivery of the mandate of the institution. In addition, ensure board decisions are aligned to strategy, to policy, and to the national priorities that have been set by the government. And the third core role of the chair is the stewardship of governance systems in the institution. That will include ensure robust and functional governance architecture, that which includes board committees, risk management, and performance evaluation systems. I need to say that the strength of the role of the chairperson relies not on individual authority, but on statutory powers that are given to us. The chair is to shape the behavior of the board, align institutional systems, and accountability to the impact of the society. Now, very quickly, Madam Chair, just to look into is our authority, do we have authority? In my own view, the regulatory framework is comprehensive, very comprehensive. Where we have challenges is at the execution level. For me, what works from my own perspective and what I've experienced, the mandate is very clear that we have. We have robust regulatory ecosystem that we have guiding us. We have strong governance architecture that is already given to us. We have structural performance frameworks that are given to us. But we have some certain gaps that I need to mention. One, for Kenya Dairy Board specifically, we are working with an obsolete Dairy Act, obsolete 1958, but later we'll be updating you how progressing we are on it. We have a weak one government enforcement approach. I need to repeat that again. Weak one government enforcement approach. We have so much power. If we synergize together, we can deliver more than each institution going. Like for instance, I give a simple example. I have a novice in Kitui that maybe overseas, or rather in a river that oversees in Ikurundi, Kisui, Kitui, and all this. How effective can we be? What about if we synergize with the rest of the institution that we can work together? So that one I'm talking globally, that we need to look at it from a one government enforcement approach. The composition of the bond sometimes can be a challenge. That can be a gap. and can really be a real challenge. And of course, as we all know, the demon of interest can really compromise the delivery of the delivery of the chairs and the boards.
Okay, so let me also give my thoughts and first say that the role of the chairperson is anchored in law and governance, and that the chairperson draws their powers from the functions of the board. I will not repeat what my colleagues have said, but maybe highlight certain duties that are of the board and the chairman. And one of them is with regards to culture. And culture affects how we deliver to the public. And in this case, these sessions we have had that we really have to change the way we approach our views on customer centricity. So the board is the custodian of culture of the institution. Secondly, also on resource allocation, and resource allocation is financial, is human, and all other resources that are available for fulfilling the mandate of the institution. That is the work of the board. Fiduciary oversight is also work of the board, where the chairperson draws their strength. And lastly, I would also want to point that, and in specific terms, the chairperson ensures that the institution aligns with government priorities for public service delivery. And if I were to speak specifically coming to the board, we have also ensured that we have optimized our human and financial resources. Specifically, last year we did have a lot of staff movements where we specifically targeted directorates or departments that were handling our regulatory mandate, the human capital. Over the last couple of years at Kenya, we have also really worked on strengthening our internal audit and awarded a couple of awards because we went out to strengthen our internal audit functions. We carried out special audits on our web bridges where we were told, or we got reports that we had integrity issues. So we carried out special audits, included this in the work plans for the Directorate of Internal Audit. We did carry out we created an ad hoc committee to investigate the conduct of the web bridges, where we found a lot of issues which we have been dealing with, and that including the NPS, where we've had to really reorganize the way we are managing our web bridges. So at Kenya National Highways Authority, we have really, the role has really played its, the that we are effectively managing our regulatory mandate. But in my personal view, do I think that the chairpersons have enough powers and functions? I agree with my colleagues that while it is anchored in law and governance, we do have gaps. We do have gaps because we rely on the information that is provided to us through board papers that come from the working committees, the standing committees. So if we don't receive this information, we become implementers rather than drivers of this process. So I think therein lies areas of improvement, and I still want to ask my colleagues here, because we've mentioned gaps, how do you think we can progressively move to seal the gaps? Ugas.
Will help in making sure that we are able to address some of the issues. I think it is institutional capacity building, so that now that becomes, you know, the driver, and then your capacity built through that. So I think the issue of boards, and I think we're here to answer 3 questions, just so that you know, we're here, we want to answer 3 questions. 1, do we have enough authority persons? to be able to execute mandates. And probably the next one is with regard to what practices actually work. Maybe if you get to that one, maybe I could move forward with that, so that we get enough time to address that.
That's where we are, Chairman.
Thank you, thank you. So let me answer that. What has worked for, and I think what we call benchmarking, or each of us comparing notes. What has worked for me, let me put it this way, in making sure that, my board works and it is able to function at the best level possible. I see one of the key things is management's capacity led by the CEO. If the CEO is up to par and is able to deliver on the mandate as delegated, then you definitely are better than others first. But if, as my colleague said, if you are a victim of the bottom process, below you, then that becomes a problem. If management is not doing it as part of work, led by the CEO. So we have to have consistent communication, consistent engagement, consistent performance reviews with the CEO and management. Number two, what has worked for me, and I generally see as a good thing, as a practice, is to reduce conflict in the workplace between management and the boards, and the board and the CEO, and between the board members. Those reduction of conflicts and friction is very, very critical. And it is better, it is good when the CEO, the chairman, leads from the front by example. What does that mean? You set the tone at the top, as she has mentioned. There's a culture issue. The culture issue needs to be at the top of the food chain. You set a culture of performance, a culture of integrity, a culture of whatever you set at the top becomes cascaded down, and it becomes a mirror for the rest of it. And you always guide performance through discipline and follow-up, consistent follow-up. Fully functional and competent committees of boards. Make sure that as a chair, you are able to actually put people who are able to execute at the committee level in the committees. And make sure that if you are going to put people who may not be able to do that, then you're setting yourself up for failure. And then, of course, the information infrastructure, how information flows within the organization, how processes work, and so forth. And in summary, let me put it this way. Boards, in terms of practice, I think, the message in this meeting or this conference has been impact over outcomes and processes and activities, right? So it is measured in terms of impact. I think that's maybe, in my third question, I'm going to answer how my board performs in terms of impact. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Wamati.
Thank you, Winnie. The practices that I found to be useful in gaining control of the conduct and output of my board in relation to achievement of regular mandate are several, and one of them may look simple, like one is keeping, for the chair, my colleague chairpersons, one first thing that as a chair, you must keep time and also facilitate effective board meetings. You don't allow board director to discuss anything. I have a colleague there who I was to meet at 1, he told me at a board meeting. By 4 p.m., he was told me he was in a board meeting. That board meeting can never be effective. Two is, of course, observing the separation of powers. For you to deliver as a board, you have to ensure that you protect your CEO against interference by the board. Not that you are against the people, but you make sure that the CEO has that authority to execute without much interference. Another job raised that be very effective is the continuous training and team building. You are born from different backgrounds, different personality traits. When we get to team buildings and such events, we get to understand one another, we get to know how we react to situations. Another issue is harnessing the collective skills of the board. some people have to be talked to act. As a chair, you lead by pulling people together so that all of them are actively involved, so that guiding the board in anchoring discussions on regulatory outcomes. The last one is evidence-based decisions and technical reports and stakeholder feedback to guide deliberations and approvals. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Couple of points. One is setting the strategic direction. For us, the strategy is not only a live document, but it's a document that's normally followed through the key resort areas. It should be always aligned to exactly what did you set to do for that particular period. And of course, you align it depending on the data that you're receiving. The second point I want to mention is the agenda setting and decision control. We must structure, and this is what we do. Personally, I found this to be very effective, structuring agendas around decision points and updates. Many a times, we get a lot of updates in board papers. But the question that I ask at the end of the paper is, what is there to note? What is there to do a resolution for? For me, what matters most is what is the resolution for. And the resolution, I don't take in a paper and you come and tell me, approve the paper. No, what are you approving? It has to be exactly what is going to be approved, and it is listed right there on that particular point and a recommendation of what is going to be done, so that I know exactly what have I committed the institution for. Secondly, on that particular agenda setting and decision control, we prioritize high impact regulatory issues. So there's so many issues that we regulate, but at the end of it, safety and achievement of the better agenda are critical. So for us, at the end of it, within the mix, are we looking into the better agenda? Are we looking to the safety of the product? Are we looking to the development of the sector? Those are the critical areas that we normally focus on and ensure that we really put a lot of effort on. Other things, you can look at it and, using the Pareto rule to know exactly what to focus on. In terms of number 3, in terms of risk matrix can be a very big document bearing everything, including small things like we saw a novice where some mutua in a new office, very minor things. I think for us, we want to focus on 5 strategic risk areas and aligned to our mandate. And then you always ask yourselves, within these 5 critical risk areas, are we aligned? Are we mitigating those risks? Number 4, and I thank you, Ungas, because of a very good point, is the leadership interference, the relationship between the board and the CEO. We maintain clear separation of responsibility and power. Board sets the direction, management executes. And of course, we monitor the management to ensure delivery is done. We hold CEO accountable through performance, not proximity. And I say it again, and this has been mentioned to us many times, through performance, but not proximity. We maintain mutual respect. They have their role, we have our own role, so we maintain mutual respect and we discuss at that professional level. The other item I've seen very important is stakeholder alignment and engagement. Of course, I actually engage with my PS Mweke, and thank you so much, PS Mweke, for great support, my minister, Office of the Hopes, and the other inspectorate institutions. Periodically, in addition to that, I find myself with the dairy farmers because I want to hear exactly what is happening in the field. Processors, I occasionally engage with them. In other ones, or the whole platform. And finally, of course, media. You all know as chairs, we have a serious mandate and expectation that we communicate what our institutions are doing. So those are areas that if you're to succeed as a chair, you must ensure you're either listening or you are communicating with all those stakeholders. The last before I finish, Madam Chair, the culture and cohesion and the integrity agenda within the board is another issue that I take to be able to deliver that mandate. We need to build high trust and high challenge board environment. We encourage constructive dissent. We don't stop dissent. If somebody is dissenting, please allow it. But let it be respectful, let it be objective, let it be a language that communicates and does not hurt anyone. Don't allow subjectivity, but allow a mutual environment where people can talk their mind, but at the same time, they are focused on the various agenda that we're discussing, not outside the agenda. But let him express the way he knows, but without emotion, in a sober manner. Of course, we need to institutionalize ethics, transparency, and accountability beyond compliance. Many times we sign these things of interest. Do you have interest? You just sign, but deep in you, you know you have so much interest. I think we need to institutionalize that and ensure practically it is practiced within the board. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. On my part, I won't repeat. I will just add that for chairman, for your board members to be effective, the first thing is that they have to be sensitized and trained. So board chairs, it is your role to ensure that you do a training needs analysis for your members, ensure that they are aware and specifically of the regulatory mandate and where there are gaps that they are trained. Secondly, strategic communication has been very key for us as a practice to communicate our regulatory mandate. And I wish to encourage everyone to follow us on our Facebook pages or all our other social media platforms. You will note that we are constantly updating. We have become very proactive in how we communicate. When we have a challenge on any of our corridors, we communicate. When we are dealing with encroachers or trying to recover our key road assets, we communicate, we give notices, and we repeat those notices until the communication is received appropriately. We also ensure that we are using digitization. We have really enhanced automation. For example, all our permits can be accessed automatically. Access control is now automated. Getting approvals for overweight loads is automated. And this ensures that are very, very important. Stakeholder engagement is very important, and this is both internal and external. I would encourage board chairs and board members to really engage their staff to get to the bottom of are they understanding the role of the institution in as far as delivering on public service, service delivery. So we really need to engage our staff. So stakeholder engagement starts with your internal stakeholders who are your employees, ensure that they are very well aligned to the government priorities. And secondly, I will not overemphasize the need for citizen engagement. Sometimes we sit in boards and receive board papers. Occasionally we get the opportunity to go out through forums that we've created. For example, the chairpersons have a council where we go out and engage citizens with the other forums and caucuses that have been created. And I would encourage chairpersons and board directors to participate in these engagements, because when you go out, you actually get feedback from your user, your customer. I would state a scenario where I went out last year on one of these events, and at that point we had just ensured, or the State Department had ensured that all, the information we had is that all our contractors were back on the road, having been paid some of their pending bills through the securitization strategy. And when we went and we were engaging the Wananchi in, I will not really mention the area, and we were really told that the contractors are not back, at least in that specific region. And I had just come from a board meeting the previous Friday, and the report I had was that all contractors, 100%, were back on the road. So without that direct engagement with the citizens, we would not have realized that there was a challenge. And when we went back to find out what was the challenge, we found it was in the communication hierarchy and how information flow was passing from the teams on the site and all the way up. So it is important, board chairs, I wish to encourage you to go out, engage citizens, and also engage your internal citizens who are your employees. I think we want to rest this conversation by finding out from our colleagues. Is your board effective? And do you have any recommendations on the way forward in terms of improving how effective it could be? We'll start with you, Amatsi.
Thank you, Winnie. I want to start by saying that my board is very effective. And I want to thank maybe on behalf of the government, the Circle here, Raymond, P.S. Raymond, is that first, the constitution of my board is very good. I have a Professor Kennedy, I have a Professor Rono, I have a Dr. Ann, I have a Dr. Rosalida, and the remaining people are all professionals. It makes, when it comes to deliberations of the board issues, it makes transacting of business very easy. So that's I want to maybe suggest that going forward, we make sure that the board members, directors, are people who understand what they do. It makes it easier to deliver the mandate. Second, Indumili was here yesterday, my brother, and he said that when a CEO tells him that he's raised A in A and he's a regulatory authority, he's against that. While I agree with him on what he said that yesterday he didn't eat lunch, and yet I sat shared a table with him and he ate rice. You know, some Luhya men, when they eat rice for lunch, that's not lunch. He must eat ugali. That I agree with him, but when it comes to raising A, one of the delivered things that my board has done through the engagements, we've raised now A. And this is important to us because we are able to do monitoring and surveillance throughout the country. We now trying to get to all the border points. So it's not possible to do that with the little money that we have from the exchequer because again, the physical headroom getting tighter by day. If we ask for money, we'll be told you are just asking for money every day. We have to be innovative. And our case is very different because I was just doing analysis with my CEO here, and the money we charge, like when you import maize, and we charge like 10 shillings a kg, a sack, a 90 kg sack. That is minimal, and it does not translate to the Watwanjik or Muikali like P.S. Mweke said. So the effect is minimal, and the overall result, we want Kenyans to be safe. Maybe for understanding, like I said before, that our mandate is one of the most controversial one, but our role is to ensure that Kenyans are safe, and we operate within a robust, of course, legal and regulatory framework, and because in 2006. That's when the government approved the National Biotechnology Policy. In 2009, it led to enactment of the Biosafety Act, and in 2011, of course, publication of relevant biosafety rules. That gives us the authority to ensure that Kenyans are safe. How do we do it? Because when you want to develop a GMO product, like for example, if Calro want to develop GMO maize, they have to seek approval from us. That law, the laws and policies give us guidelines on how to, of course, the application process, the review, the approval, and all the processes. What I'm trying to say is that the structure we have in place is adequate enough to make sure that Kenyans are safe. So our board is very effective. They have raised adequate money. We are able to do surveillance all over the country, and we are hiring more staff and more teams to be at the border points to ensure that Kenyans are safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Ugas.
Thank you. Concerned about time, but I don't think I've mentioned much about the institution, the Capital Markets Authority. I was doing much generalities, but let me answer this question of is my board effective through what is the impact at the Capital Markets Authority and what is as a regulator. So there are quite a number of performance indicators, basically impact indicators in the market that show what different institutions in that space are doing through the joint financial sector regulators comprising of 7 institutions led by the CBK and the Capital Markets Authority. So, for example, let me just give me one impact, just to indicate what we're doing. One, digitization was mentioned, innovation was mentioned. Just the availability of trading market securities through Safaricom platform has yielded an additional 1.25 million investors. That's almost 40% increase in retail investors in the market over a period of 7 months or 8 months. So that small tweak, and that's through support from HE, His Excellency the President, since he came on board, he's been very supportive of the capital markets, and regulatory reform. We've done just a bit of tweaking. For example, you could buy one share instead of buying a block of shares at 50, a certain limits, minimums. You just buy one share, it might be 2 shillings. Right now we're removing capital gains tax through the bill, the financial bill. We're removing capital gains tax on various products. Why? So that there's democratization of wealth. You get access to the market. And we have reduced the share levels. We've reduced how much you can buy a share for 2 shillings so that you don't pay, excise duty or other value-added duties on it. We remove all those. So basically that's that. Number 2, I'm almost done. There is a joint financial sector regulators survey that was done. It's called FinAccess Survey. We launched it in the Kenya School of Monetary Studies, 2024-25. And one thing we came to find out is how much is financial inclusion, for example, how many, in terms of demographics, in terms of, so anyway, let me put it this way. There's a lot of information, a lot of impact, and let me put it this way, my board, to the outcomes. And by the way, boards have maturity levels as teams. Remember, you come through forming, norming, performing. Remember the different stages of team building. We reach a performing stage where you feel that, everything is like clockwork. It works, and so that is all. So the market right now, in the last 1 year, has grown in terms of market capitalization by, by almost over 100%. It has crossed the 3 trillion shillings. So the market is there, and my final thoughts on this is to ask you all, and I've said this in the Mombasa retreat, if I'm not mistaken, and I'll say it again. I think you, as the face of government, needs to invest in the capital markets. And I welcome you. You make better returns in buying shares and other instruments than putting in a building and getting rental outcome. Rental, so right now the average is about 7% for rental, okay? Whereas for market securities, it is about maybe 10 to 13% today. So I'm enticing you to that outcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Genesio, you already told us that you are effective because no one has had food poisoning. So maybe just 2 minutes.
Okay, I'll try to keep a bit. I'll try to be very statistical. I'll look at this question, whether Kenya Dairy Board is effective in 2 lenses. One, governance lens, and secondly is what Madam Chair is telling me I already mentioned. In terms of the board governance, SCAC at 2.8%. In terms of policy and regulatory progress, I mentioned that we're operating with the legal framework of 1958. We already finalized that. Now the bill is at the AG for progression. In terms of leadership stability, we've had very seamless bond transitions for the period I've been there. And number 2, we have had senior level transitions also very smooth, which is an indication of smooth governance. In terms of human capital instruments, we had gone through the human HR instruments and now we have a fresh approved in 2025, which are very motivating. Allow me to cap it all by is where yesterday we were told we must look into our situation in terms of the impact to the community. And I want to look at this is in terms of impact through the better agenda. Remember, dairy is a priority sector by the president. And they have a very high level, and I will be very selective in terms of what I want to talk about. In terms of productivity, dairy per cow per day productivity. We moved from about 7.9 to about 9.3 liters per day per cow. In terms of AI services, insemination, we were coverage about 20 to 25%. Right now, we are covering about overall, in terms of beta, is about 50% coverage. You all know the average of milk price per liter has moved from around 37 shillings to about 50 shillings. And finally, because I can see Madam Chair is really looking at me, I'm looking at what do I say and what do I say. Coolers, you all know in all the country through the PS, we've received over 230 coolers, and we have the second phase that is coming to support the dairy sector. Let me finish with this. As the board, what is our Singapore vision? One, the digital, in terms of developing the digital framework, traceability and market data expansion so that we can have smart regulation. Number two, and second to the last, is in terms of strengthening the governance, institutional governance, the dairy sector institution. This one I mean cooperative movement. Actually, the biggest undoing for the dairy sector is the poor governance within our dairy cooperative societies. If a transformation must be done there, I can tell you Kenya will be completely transformed in terms of that sector. That is where the biggest gap is. And finally, I want to say quality-based milk payment system. We want transition from volume to value in terms of what gets to the pocket of the farmer. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. On my part, I want to say that the KenHub board is very effective. And it is effective because all of you found your way here from Nairobi via roads. So if we were not effective, you would not have found yourselves here. We are also effective because we have put in place all necessary governance tools. Last year, we revamped our performance management framework, where we now include as a performance issue, and marks are awarded to this on these indicators. We added two key issues. One is implementation of internal audit directives. It's a performance issue now. And the second one is behavioral competencies, which we have aligned to the culture that we are targeting to achieve. So we have made these performance issues, and we have ensured that these are cascaded. We have also ensured as a board that we have very good board dynamics. We are work very seamlessly. We have an exceptionally good relationship with our State Department and our ministry and our siblings, KRB, KURA, and KERA, to ensure that there is alignment, and we are ensuring that we are enabling economic transformation under the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. We have put in place measures to ensure that we deal with the perceptions or otherwise of integrity in the road sector. We have dealt with staff where we needed to deal with staff, and we have ensured that the institution is stable and that the pending bills are being paid on time. So in terms of ensuring our fiduciary responsibility as a board, we have done that. Driving impact, innovation, we are working on that. You have seen our PPPs. We have very strict timelines where we are ensuring that we are working on that. We are also ensuring that we are refocusing our resources on planning, quality assurance, that we deliver the roads that you deserve as Kenyans. So in terms of effectiveness, we have had my colleagues explaining to you what boards do, how they can be effective. And we want to end this session with a question to Chairman Wamatsi that has come from the app. And I will just read it, Chairman. Are broiler chicken reared by Kenyan farmers safe for consumption by human beings? It is alleged that they are grown with steroids, hence their big size. Please, if you could answer that for us, Chairman Wamatsi.
Thank you. First, before I answer that, allow me to state that the world is moving in line with the contemporary trends. And one of the keys to deal with the issues of food security is embracing biotechnology. That steroid is not under our regulations. I cannot recommend on that. Maybe someone else will do, because what we specifically do, we regulate GMO, genetically modified organism. If someone else is doing something different, that one I cannot comment. But what I can say is that as we speak today, there are challenges to deal with food security. Our people have no food on table. As NBA, we have approved maize and cassava, very productive ones, but we are yet to roll out to the markets because of the challenges, court cases. All I can say is that, like I say, there are a lot of challenges, there are court cases, there are a lot of issues, but that is the only key we have in addition to many others in solving the issue of food security. The chicken one is not a GMO. The products developed as GMO, there's a list, maybe we'll share with him, my CEO will share with that list of the products developed as GMO in the world. There is maize, there is rice, there is sugarcane. So that is what we regulate. That's not within our mandate. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I want to sum up by reading a comment from Sarah Burge. I hope I've pronounced your name right. The board has to be well prepared to handle regulatory issues based on individual board members' experience, knowledge, and practice of regulation in terms of ensuring public safety at any time. So thank you for that comment. I think it wraps up what we have been saying. And at this point, allow me to also take this opportunity on behalf of my colleagues here and other chairpersons to thank our management teams, our CEOs, our directors of internal audit, our corporation secretaries, and all members of our management for the work that you do. We are looking forward to receiving more precise board papers in time so that we can continue to engage and ensure that decisions are delivered at the right time to ensure we move this country on. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I wish to hand the mic back to Alex.
Thank you. Let's give them a better round of applause, please, as they make their way off the stage. Asante sana, chairpersons. And I think it's a very interesting sessions that we've had. A very interesting session we've had this afternoon from the 4 diverse chairpersons. A session that is quite refreshing, I beg your pardon. And I think even as chairpersons sitting amongst ourselves, we have many lessons that we can learn and of course reflect on our own entities, on the things that have been said. I would request that if we have the Q&A, there was a live Q&A, and thank you very much. We would want to know an answer to that question. I'm not certain if the question was triggered by the fact that we are almost at lunchtime, but the nodes truly expect robust and independent assurance when the head of internal audit is not positioned at an appropriately senior level within the organization, but instead placed safe. That's a question to Kenya Dairy Board, and I hope we can get the answer. If we scroll again. Oh wait, those are as many as they can before escalating to yourselves. And we hope that all of us as PSs are then keeping in tabs with our standing committees, and followed by Dr. Caroline Hunja from the State Department for Higher Education, followed by Mr. Boniface Simba, State Department for Livestock Development, and lastly, Chimwaga Mongo from the to come on stage, perhaps one by one, because we noticed the screen. Sorry, Carol. Order in which we are listed in the program, after which we will then have a plenary covering the entire morning session before we break for lunch. With that, I thank you and karibu sana, Madam Path.
We'll be able to go down to the heart and as also we prepare for lunch. Thank you. Let's be seated. On behalf already established, the State Department for Internal Security and National Administration has 6 regulatory authorities and agencies. Division on policy and partnership. We have the division on communication. We have the division on planning. We also have the director. We were asked to look at the experiences that we've had as standing committees on the revitalization of our Raas so as to elevate their performance. And I would like to state, before I give the specific mechanisms, that on the onset, our principal secretary had a meeting with both the committee and the regulation authorities, and that therefore gave us a very good platform for us to proceed on our assignment. So the first mechanism is the review of the mandate and ensuring its alignment. We looked at each Raas founding legislation just to ensure that their current operations and priorities are not only in place, but we are able to identify whether there are any rifts, any gaps, and overlaps in their reporting. The second mechanism is strategic oversight and coordination, and the committee ensures that the regulatory authorities and agencies actually are operating within the laid down government policies, reform directives, and national development frameworks, of course, better taking center stage. And of course, inevitably, performance monitoring and evaluation committees, we set benchmarks and we track the effectiveness of our agencies so that they not only deliver on their mandates, and this we do through reviewing the reports and also recommending the corrective actions. There is also stakeholder engagement and public trust. Our PS has been named Sirkal because we have our footprints in the entire country, and therefore through that very significant function that we have, we then enable our agencies to be able to engage with stakeholders, including citizens and businesses and other stakeholders. As we are all aware, last year, from April to October 2025, we undertook a very important exercise that is Jukwaa la Usalama forums in the entire 47 counties, and we carried along our agencies so as to have that feedback and engagement with their stakeholders. Also, we facilitate interagency coordination. I've mentioned that in our committee, we have the division on policy and partnerships, and therefore we facilitate that interagency engagement so as to minimize conflicts, and also there is coherence in the regulation enforcement. And finally, on mechanisms, we provide advisory and recommendations, and even, we provide advisory and tracking of recommendations as a committee. Our second question was about how do we as a committee support our authorities. The first and very critical is on financial support. We all are aware that the budgetary allocation is not adequate for our agencies to operate, but during this budgetary process, we advocate and engage Treasury on behalf of them for resourcing. I'm sure, for example, when the presenter from NACADA made his presentation, we also, under finance, ensure that there is efficient and sustainable resource use, prudent utilization of resources, and also for the intended purposes, and also the audit committee strengthening and internal controls. And at this juncture, I want to commend the internal auditor, who is a member of the committee, because all our 6 regulatory authorities and agencies now have, we have support, and we look at harmonization of the frameworks that are available to govern our agencies. Also the reviewing proposed amendments and eliminate if there are any overlaps or conflicts, and also ensure there are clear mandates, and we advocate for stronger regulatory authority. I want to speak to capacity building and support. This is a very, very critical aspect, sometimes because of budgetary allocations, which cannot facilitate the members, the RAAs to be able to undertake their mandate. They have a capacity challenge. Therefore, the committee has been able to support by strengthening human resource capacity. For example, we look at our human resource establishment and we are able to support our RAAs with the available officers that we have. We also identify skill gaps, support training, and digital transformation. Digital transformation, that's why we have our ICT director. And I'm happy to inform at the meeting that for digital transformation, when we started the onboarding of services digitally as a country and as government, we ensured that all our agencies were on board. And also, whenever we undertake training for the entire State Department, we ensure that we bring on board representation or membership from the board to be part of the training. We also support knowledge transfer programs that are across the agencies. Matters stakeholder facilitation, of course, we also convene a sector and regulatory authorities and agencies dialogue forums. I have mentioned the Jukwaa la Usalama. We also mediate if there are any disputes between regulatory entities and our agencies. At this point, I want to mention, for example, our private security regulatory authority, when the agencies or the unions within that sector had issues with that agency, with the regulatory authority, we were able to come on board and mediate that dispute, and that really unlocked very many issues that we were having, including even the composition of the board. We also support public sensitization on new regulatory requirements through our national government, A beneficiary here is our Public Benefits Organization Regulation Authority that we worked with well, especially on public participation on their regulations. And finally, for them to be able to make the necessary, relevant, and significant decisions and address the gaps. And here for us, we have a yes and an no answer. Why do we say yes? We say yes because there is to enhance efficiency, accountability, and even responsiveness to public delivery. This we were also able to witness when we did the Jukwaa la Usalama government, and this we have captured very well, especially it grew in the third quarter of our financial year, 2025-2026 reporting period. We have also seen there is a clear, we have created clear procedures and SOPs under which our RAAs are able to operate. Therefore, we have standardized processes. There is predictability. We have minimized errors, and there is also improved quality of services that we are offering to our stakeholders and members of the public. And also, yes, because there is improved performance. But what is also very core is there is now increased collaboration. There was a disconnect between the RAAs and the state departments, but following the intervention of the leadership, as I mentioned before we started this journey, our principal secretary was able to convene the committee and the agencies. And this, therefore, has increased our collaboration, and it is also enabling our accounting officer to is number one, we have the issue of information asymmetry in reporting. There is often control on the narrative and independent, but later with the intervention of the leadership, the standing committee was able to hit rapport, and now we are able to have that engagement with our agencies. Functioning optimally, but also a new report will indicate that there could be some inaction or a repeat, or rather, a weak reporting system. We also have agencies to be able to execute their mandate. And that is where the standing committee comes in very handy. Legal framework and emerging realities. We have had experience, we have learned lessons where the NACADA wanted to recruit some officers to be able to support in the execution of their mandate. Somebody went to court. So the misuse of judicial process actually affects the running, constituting agencies full boards, and I've spoken to what the delays are when we don't have a full board in place. That was also a challenge for PSRA. And then the publishing of our annual RAA performance card, we feel that it should be made public for all to know. Then improving budgetary allocations. We have our PSs in the house. We feel that this is a critical for our agencies to be able to deliver. And finally, improved liaison and cooperation with the judiciary. We need to have an engagement with the judiciary so that they can be able to appreciate the position of the agencies, the role they need to play, and that support will be very timely in enhancing our performance. So this is just evidence that indeed we engage very closely. We actually visit them. Finally, thank you. That is it from the State Department. And finally, our peers.
Thank you very much. Good here today, but was here yesterday. And I'm doing this as the chairperson of the standing committee. And of course, I do that on her behalf. The agencies are citizen-facing. And because, please, previous slide, and because they're citizen-facing, they tend to be undergoing through a lot of public scrutiny. Of course, because they're citizen-facing, they serve the public, and through that, they tend to gain a lot of public attention because they're serving various stakeholders, and they also tend to have a lot of media attention. And so, in the spirit of this revitalization and re-energization of our RAAs, we have been working together as a standing committee to make sure that we can improve our service delivery and ensure that we reduce the discomfort or the dissatisfaction that is actually observed in our agencies by observed several key outcomes, whereby now we can report on improved communication and regulatory awareness with our regulatory agents, end up being transformational through this process. And we are transformational because we have discovered that in order, as a standing committee and together with our RA model, and finally, we're shifting from compliance to collaboration. I'm moving fast because I want to show you the impact. I'm going to spend more time on the impact. Now, I'm going to start on the evidence, impact, and accountability, which is what our mandate is as a standing committee together in the revitalization spirit. And I'm going to start with the Commission for University Education. And we've been asked to use data, key roles that they perform. The first one being the processing of applications for recognition, for the recognition and equation of foreign. We're comparing data from 2 financial years, FY 2024-2025 and FY 2025-2026. And you can see these qualifications. We have those that have been recognized, we have those that have not been recognized, and we have the total applications processed. So for 2024-2025, 2,130 were processed. In the 2025-2026 year, 1,848. I would like us to focus on the area that I've circled, which is not recognized. Now, today I want to just interpret it in two ways. The first one has issued a directive that you must submit your foreign degree certificate to the Commission for University Education for verification and authentication. So, because indeed we are finding ways to regulate and weed out fake certificates. But it would be rather unfortunate with my second that the Commission for University Education needs to upgrade its regulatory mandate so that the public can be sensitized. Students can be sensitized. Whenever you apply for a degree out of this country, kindly ensure that you engage with the Commission to ensure that the university that you have been admitted to is actually genuine anywhere in this world. So that number should therefore, in that case, read 0. So you can see, again, when it comes to analyzing our data and looking at the impact we are having to the public, we can see the kind of targets we need to set as a State Department Standing Committee together with our regulatory authority of Q. We need to weed out as many fake certificates as possible that are available. We need to sensitize the public. Again, you can see in 2024-2025, the Commission licensed 60 recruitment agencies countrywide, which have now been licensed and can be studied. Secondly, in FY 2025-2026, so far, we have 54 licensed agencies, and the number is still growing. Now, this speaks genuine and that they need to be licensed by the Commission so that they can run their businesses in the country and recruit. Kenya University and Colleges Central Placement Service, CUPS. In terms of evidence, impact, and accountability, number 1, fault audit status. And we would like to report that through this process of revitalization of our energies, we'd like to report that through that collaboration with the standing committees, CUPS has managed in 2 consecutive years, 2024-2025, to receive an unqualified audit opinion, meaning that they have 0 fault audit status. And so today we stand here saying it is possible to achieve it because our agency and the Ministry of Health, and this task force comprises of Q, the Nursing Council of Kenya, and the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Council. Are they compliant internationally? Are they conforming to the international standards? And this is an amazing example of how collaboration can help you improve on your regulatory role. And I would like to also stand here and say, through these efforts, CUPS has received an award, one by the Ministry of Interior for excellence in integrating or onboarding into eCitizen. CUPS happened to be one of the first agencies to onboard onto eCitizen. And secondly, the Office of the President also honored CUPS recently this year for their public service in achieving the 0 fault audit status. What am I saying? When we perform exceptionally well, then there is recognition, there is a work about, finally, the university's fund, UF. You know that under this, we experienced a lot of media attention, and so far, you notice that it has gone up, which from 2023 all the way up to about end of 2024, had a lot of media attention, had a lot of controversies and refinement. Now you can see, especially with the means testing instrument that was determining the socio-economic status, not had much this year, and very few appeals have been reported. And that means there is a lot of improvement on this particular area. And that it goes beyond the cap that has been set, then the top amount of money is usually subsidized by the government. covered by the government, and you only pay the policy alignment. And it has also been recognized for courage and fortitude in showcasing agency talent and unique innovations, which is governance by the Office of the Chief of Staff and the Office of the Head of the Public Service. Next slide, please. Finally, question was, can we say that indeed our RAAs are performing optimally? Now, indeed, few examples that I've given, just very few because we have a few minutes only to cover this, this session. We can say indeed so far we have optimal performance, but now our biggest issue, of course, will be sustainability. We have shown that we are winning awards, that we are doing very well, we have optimal performance. And so as a standing committee, the challenge we are now facing is to ensure that our RAAs maintain that trajectory and continue performing in a better and better way. And so take-home message is that every day we are aiming for higher and better. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Let me also write down the protocols already established. But I have to appreciate our PSS who are with us, and special appreciation to my PS, Jonathan Imweke, for being with us. I'm Boniface Simba, Chairperson, Standing Committee on RA's State Department for Livestock Development. I will take you through a presentation that focuses more on monitoring, evaluation, and assessment of impact, not activities, and more particularly our experience as standing committees and our role to elevate the performance of RAAs. We'll try to understand who the State Department of Livestock Development is. Why do we exist as a State Department? And what's our role before we go to the RAAs? We, as a State Department, exist to promote, to regulate, and to facilitate livestock production, to support socio-economic development and industrialization. We draw our legitimacy from the Executive Order number 1 of 2025. What is our contribution as a State Department is 12% of the GDP. And also, it is a source of income to many Kenyans, but to be precise, 50% of the labor force in the agricultural sector are absorbing that. And as our chair, the report mentioned that it's a great source of food and nutritional security. As authorities, that's the Kenya Dairy Board to regulate the dairy industry, Kenya Veterinary Board to regulate the training of our vet doctors and also their practice. Veterinary Medicine Directorate Council, they regulate all the veterinary medicines. Let's move on. Now, the mechanisms used by the State Department to know and understand the nature, mandate, and whether our RAs are performing well. We must, first of all, refer to, of course, mainly the Constitution, but policies, legal and regulatory frameworks are so critical, are so important. We must all the time refer to them. When they fail to be very relevant, we review all those instruments to ensure that we are always on the right track. Annual performance and contracting and reporting, this is done almost on a quarterly basis to find out whether the set targets have been met, if there are areas to be addressed, and if we are performing well. We also have periodical engagements between the Standing Committee and RAS, almost on a monthly basis, having meetings, interactive sessions, even when it's necessary. And we have a lot of heavy work to do to prepare very realistic reports. We can have retreats to be able to critically look at set targets and whether we are achieving or not achieving, and we focus more on whether we are touching the lives of the Kenyans, the ones that are our bosses. The boards, we have our PSS represented to always guide, advise, and sometimes give direction where necessary. Impact evaluation of these regulatory authorities is a major issue, a major area that we focus more on all the time. And this really yields better results than when people are working as silos. We always have an input and a guide on the reviews. We have the Dairy Industry Bill 2025, the veterinary viable proposals on what they want to do, and if that project has a big resource implication. The State Departments that need to be done, and they give a nod before liaising with the National Treasury for their viability and financing. Kenya Veterinary Board has established regional offices for purposes of better visibility and also reach to people across the country. The National Dairy Veterinary Medicine Directorate Council have also a National Veterinary Medicine Quality Control Lab, which has been approved and is on the process of sizes and the impacts the coolers have had. That's an area that our State Department has played a major role. Another one is the review, monitor performance evaluations with the tools given by the OOPS office. Our 3 institutions scored between 80, were able to have an affirmative that we are performing very well, and it was optimal performance. And why do we say it was optimal performance? Adoption of risk, that brings trust, that means healthy. Watu lazima watu wakae na afya bora. Enforcement of minimum guaranteed milk producer price. The average milk payout price to dairy farmers stabilized between 47 47 shillings and 50 cents to 49.8 shillings per liter of milk, leading to increased incomes. Yeah, pesa mfukoni mwa wakulima. Sensitization of practitioners by KVP, it increased the numbers. We talk about the numbers from 1031 to 15.
PSS, chairman, board members, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, may I kindly ask for your audience. We are waiting to welcome back our host to this conference. As he makes way, may I kindly ask that we rise to our feet and give him a round of applause as we welcome back our Chief of Staff and the Head of Public Service, Mr. Felix Kosgei, back to this conference. Tuendelee kumpigia makofi anapokwenda mahali ataweza kuketi. Once again, I apologize, Mr. Simba, for cutting short your presentation. May we kindly take up our seats. Thank you. Bwana Simba.
Karibu, Head of Public Service and Chief of Staff. These were the constraints or the gaps. Weak legal and regulatory framework, slow pace of enactment of the bills that are supposed to be reviewed. They take a little bit, quite some time, and we always have our partition, healthy animals, safe food for health and wealth. And when you are healthy and wealthy, you are a happy person. Thank you. Maybe I can call my colleague Mongo. Yes, sir.
Allow me to ride on the protocols already established and recognize the presence of my PS, Engineer Dr. Ngeno. My name is Lois Ntutu from the State Department for Environment and Climate Change. I'm standing in for Secretary Administration, Mr. Mongo. I'll take you through the presentation. Next slide. This is the outline of the presentation. We have the information that is the mandate of the State Department. We also have the mechanisms used by the State Department to understand the nature and regulatory mandate and performance of the Raas. And the next question was how the State Department supported the quest by Raas to achieve optimal performance. And then the last one, the current performance status, challenges and interventions. Next slide. This is the mandate. Next. One of the mechanisms is the institutional coordination and reviews. And under that, we have board representations, whereby our PS or a representative of the PS is part of the board. We also do a quarterly CEO's meeting with the principal secretary. We have the project supervisions, whereby if a project is aligned to a directorate like climate change, the NEMA reports to the directorate itself, and we also undertake M&E for all. And the other one is quarterly sensitization meetings, which are usually held so that we can review the performance and the targets that we set. Automatically shows that now they subject themselves to performing and achieving the targets that they set in the PC. We also do quarterly financial and non-financial reporting. NEMA submits the report to the ministry, and then now the State Department combines for all the departments and send to the given authorities. 2027, so that they can align to the government objectives, the Vision 2030 and better. Next. Another mechanism is NEMA are doing any regulation. They have to do it in collaboration with our legal department, and that ensures that the role of NEMA, like the one for carbon market regulations, where NEMA is the designated authority. We also be part of the supported NEMA to achieve its optimal performance. It's true, we support through policy and legal framework alignment. I already talked about it. We also support them in resource mobility authorities. The other one is the interagency coordination. The principal secretary chairs regular meetings, as I said earlier, from the organization, so that we ensure that they meet the threshold and can give us accurate feedback from the citizens that they are facing. And we also give some interventions. One of the challenges is the enforcement gap. Said despite a rising number of gazetted work on our regulations so that we ensure that they are up to what we require. The other one is the resource constraints, sometimes staff. And then the last one is the coordination overlap, whereby some mandates are undertaken by it affects the level of them performing optimally. And some of the interventions that the State Department has undertaken, the first one 2013 to now. The other one is strengthening legal and regulatory framework. The government has finalized new regulations. And, that is the end of presentation from environment.
And how that has been in the last 1 year as they have steered or guided the various Raas under the specific state departments, have how that experience has been. And we've heard from 4 state departments, Head of Public Service, from the State Department for Internal Security and the National Administration, State Department for Higher Education, State Department for Livestock Development, and that we are now at that point of the plenary for the entire morning session. And I'll be requesting the ushers to quickly be in position so that we have up. Every session has a discussion board, so you're able to quickly make your comments as the session is going on. You're also able to have a live Q&A, so you can ask.
First, I support this forum. It should continue the way it has been. I want to make very, very brief comments. One is, and when the date of implementation comes, on the first day you will be implementing that plan. And that plan will be adequately resourced. But do we actually feel it? In institutions in other jurisdictions, I have seen where you actually feel it. So the move should be from just saying it, making it. We should move away from silos, and start working together where there are relationships of that nature. I want projects all over the country. I think there should not be funding for new projects until the incomplete projects are funded, because resources are being.
With that said, we sincerely appreciate this forum and similar others that have been formed. It is really very enriching and quite appropriate. One, I have 2 issues to raise. In 2002, I think 2002, when we were setting up the Aga Khan University by then, and the former chairman of the commission for taking note of this. But we want to go back. If we really want to curb these problems, can we be able to curb this when our homes, our fridges are full of all types of alcohol and drugs? Are we able to win Why are we talking about the society where our boys have grown and they are seeing this in our cupboards? They're seeing this in our fridges. We're celebrating them buying all types of alcohol and all types of drugs when they do something, and we have set them this habit, and it becomes for them a normal trend. But now when they abuse in the public is a time we are taking note of. I think we have to start at the beginning. A second example is, and I'm sure NTSA is here, and I was hearing the roads department. You have seen in practice, colleagues, motorbikes coming straight opposite direction as you drive from Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. You are coming to town, they are driving against the traffic. And no police officer, nobody takes. But what do we give? What statistics do we give? Number of road accidents, number of people who had fractures. And we are leaving this thing on our daylight to curb. If we leave this to start, you have seen motorbikes have now become a menace. No policeman, he's there. Nobody tells you you're on the wrong side. And we need really to curb this acting up at the early stage so that we don't have our hospitals full of patients who have got fractures taking months to heal. And I think this is where we need to curb. Otherwise, thank you so much, and I'm really pleased of how the work is going on. Shukran.
Thank you very much. And Head of Public Service, I think your message is in the health sector are coming together to ensure that that loop is closed. We also saw that today again from the education sector, where they are now working together to ensure that nothing is left behind. In the morning of all of us sitting in these tents, all participants who are invited for this conference will be having their lunch in the hall onto my left. And one of the things is that we believe there is a place for PSs, there's a place for chairpersons, CEOs, board members, and so on. So once you get in with your, so ensure you have your meal card, and that you've also informed your orderlies or your drivers and security detail that they are being served in the dining hall. It's a physical structure so that they don't get in there and be able to control and serve you better. Please, if you have orderlies, allow them to have their meals on the other side as you have your meal with your colleagues. For the Head of Public Service to lead us out together with the PSs, will then be followed by the chairpersons, CEOs, chairpersons, the board members and CEOs will follow us to please pray for our lunch. Madam PS Muthoni, please come and pray for lunch. And after she prays for lunch, please be seated as we have the
sit. And in Jesus' name, amen. In the name of the Father, of the Son.
Tuendelee, tusimame, tulime ngoma sawa sawa. As our host comes back to the tent, tulime ngoma sawa sawa. Safari Voices, tuwapigie makofi tena. Nawaomba kwa mara ya mwisho walioko pale nje, tafadhali tuweze kuingia kwenye hema. Walioko pale nje tuingie kwenye hema. Alex, kindly. Jameni, Safari Voices, tuwapigie makofi. Tuwapigie makofi mazuri jameni. Thank you Safari Voices.
Thank you very much, and thank you again, Safari Voices. We welcome you back to the afternoon session. We do trust and hope that you did enjoy your lunch this afternoon, and we will then go straight. We go into that session. Chief of Staff, there was a point of concern that was raised by one of your participants. He was concerned that the head of public service has invited you for bush dinner or game meat, as we call it. And I also did see my good friend game meat. It is not bush meat or a dinner of bush animals, no. It is a dinner. We want to make this clear that it is not bush dinner as Nigerians would call, game meat. They will say, bush meat. It is a dinner in the bush. And the dinner is of dances. And as you have seen, the session will be better than the dancing that you have seen at this point. In the program, it is indicated as an intriguing bush dinner and dance hosted by the head of public service, and further announcements will be made during that dinner by the head of public service. Now, allow me to then, at this...
For those remarks, Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service, the Honorable Felix Kosgei, the Honorable Felix Kosgei, my colleague PS, the Bush dinner. With those few remarks, ladies and gentlemen, I want us to put our hands together. For the head of public service, who has hands together. For the head of public service, who has created time, who has let us stand power in their own villages. All principals, secretaries present, I can see quite a number of regulatory authorities and agencies present, members of independent commissions, all members of the standing committees of regulatory authorities and agencies present, all distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Have undertaken over the past 3 years. What we are witnessing today is not by chance. It is the result of deliberate effort, strong leadership, and a shared commitment across the regulatory space to confront challenges and drive meaningful change. Across government, there is clear evidence that regulatory authorities and agencies have stepped up or have stepped forward and embraced this agenda with serious commitment and purpose. Many of you have taken bold decisions, reviewed long-standing practices, strengthened governance and operational systems, and worked to align your institution more closely with the expectations placed upon you. This has required discipline, openness to change, and willingness to move beyond business as usual. The progress is visible. There is greater clarity of mandates, improved coordination across institutions, and a stronger focus on accountability and performance. Increasingly, there is also a shift from activity to results and from processes to outcomes. These are not small achievements. They reflect a sector that has responded positively to direction and has demonstrated agenda is a compliance requirement, but as a genuine opportunity to strengthen your institutions and enhance your impact. You have engaged that reform within the public service is both feasible, possible, and sustainable. Even as we acknowledge the progress made, it is also important that we an area that still requires urgent attention. The space of action in some areas remain slower than it should be. There are instances where decisions are clear and not taken in good time. There are situations where the right course of action is known, but hesitation persists. There are processes that continue longer than necessary, not because solutions are unavailable, but because boldness in execution is lacking. These hesitations comes at a cost. And the costs that we always experience is such as delays in service delivery. It also slows down economic activity, and ultimately it affects how government is experienced by the citizens. At this stage of the journey, this is a gap we must confront directly. The systems are now largely in place. The direction is clear. The expectations are well understood. What is required is decisiveness, confidence, and willingness to act in the best interest of the public within the law and within your mandate. We must therefore move at a maximum speed, not reckless speed, but deliberate, decisive, addressed. The gains we have made must now be matched by the pace at which we implement and sustain them. Even as we acknowledge this progress, the central question before us now is whether these efforts are translating into measurable improvements in the lives of citizens. The true test of regulation is not in the number of licenses issued, inspections conducted, or frameworks developed. For mwananchi, regulation must mean that approvals are predictable and timely, that requirements are clear and consistent, and that engagement with public institutions is fair and efficient, where the regulation is working. When these outcomes are present, government is seen to be functioning. When they are absent, every standard and every enforcement action must be assessed against a simple question. And the question is, what difference does the citizen-centered? It must move from internal processes to external outcomes. It must be practical, responsive, and aligned to the realities faced by those we serve. The progress made now sets a high expectation. The foundation has been laid. What is required going forward is consistency, depth, and sustained impact. It is no longer sufficient to demonstrate isolated improvements. Excellence must now become the standard across all institutions. This calls for discipline in execution, clarity in decision-making, and a firm commitment to accountability. As we place greater emphasis on outcomes and citizen experience, it is equally important that regulatory action becomes more visible, more deliberate, and more felt on the ground. We must be seen, we must be felt. The presence of regulators should be evident not only in policy and documentation, but in the everyday experiences of citizens and businesses. This requires bold, timely, and consistent action that signals clarity, fairness, and authority. When regulation is visible, confidence grows. When it is decisive, compliance improves. And when it is felt, citizens are assured that government is present, responsive, and working in their interest. A critical shift that must now take place is one of ownership. The responsibility for driving this agenda must be internalized within each regulatory authority and agency. Leadership must take full responsibility for performance. The role of coordination structures remains important, but the primary responsibility rests with the regulators themselves. They must take charge of their space, define their standards, and ensure that those standards are upheld. So as we move forward, the momentum built over the past 3 years must be sustained. Reform is not an event, ladies and gentlemen. It is a continuous process. The gains made must, welcoming His Excellency the Deputy President, I said we are now moving into a phase where we expect regulatory authorities and a clear sense of direction. This is about self-direction and stewardship. The intention is that going forward to the next conference as guests rather than as organizers. In this regard, this conference must demonstrate even greater depth, higher standards, and stronger. The shift is towards measurement. There is a well-established principle that what gets measured gets done. When we define improves, where measurement is absent, effort becomes diffused and results remain uncertain. As has been stated, if you cannot improve it, this is the discipline that must now guide regulatory action. It is no longer sufficient to report on activities. The question is whether those activities are producing results. It is not how many inspections have been conducted, but whether risks are reduced. It is not how many licenses have been issued, but whether processes have become more efficient and predictable. It is not how many enforcement actions have been taken, but whether compliance has improved. I always ask the different regulators whenever we engage the following questions, and most of you are familiar. Number one, can we clearly demonstrate with evidence the impact of their work on the ground? What exactly are they measuring? And does it reflect what matters to citizens? If they cannot measure their impact, how do they know whether or not they are succeeding? Measurement must therefore focus on outcomes and impact. It must reflect what is happening on the ground. It must demonstrate whether citizens are experiencing better services, safer environments, and more reliable systems. This requires clear indicators, consistent data, and a commitment to using evidence to guide decision-making. Measurement is not a reporting requirement. It is a management tool. It is how we ensure that our work remains focused, effective, and aligned to the needs of the people we serve. And we realize that the entire system was dysfunctional. The systems that had been put in place, dual discretions whenever they are making decisions. Your institutions had been synonymous to either a CEO or a chairman, whoever was very close to the powers that be. Our regulatory function had failed the test of consistency. And since the challenge that we found seems to have been a decades-long problem, the stage of responsibility at that time. Because we realized that even officers that had been employed, they didn't even know their role, they didn't even understand statutes that created you and statutes that gave you powers to manage the sector. Many of them, many of you, with the first survey that was done, as was said yesterday, many of you do not know that they are regulators. Many of you do not know what a regulator does. They know that they come to the office, the job of that institution is only to collect fees. They don't even understand this fees is for what. When somebody brings in water to measure or to check on impurities and the rest, they know that to receive money. And they would forego even the impurities within it, so long as they are of business sector and the counterfeit and the rest. Same case to financial sectors, same case across agriculture sector, financial, all those sectors. They were working, traveling across the country, enforcing what they are supposed to enforce. Closing down to challenge the existence of those whom they think that they are mightier than anybody else, and therefore they can do whatever they want to do. We've seen you people putting, we have identified conflicts in the laws, we have identified overlaps, we have identified impediments. We have realigned our approach in the sectors that we are regulating, not only by enforcing the rules, the conditions, is so that we carry the people along. Professor here yesterday was clear that performance, like what we are discussing today. I think going forward, we need to have our customers, the citizens of this country, and those investors, the citizen-centric principle is seen to be implemented. I want also to for resisting bullying, political bullying, intimidation, name calling, referrals, scaring you with offices. Office of the Head of Public Service has said that. He's my cousin. We studied together. He was my cube mate. You will see. Or people scaring you and showing you the mobile number of the president. Or how close all that said and done, whether you know the president, whether you know the minister, whether you are a relative of flying squad officer, ask them. That will be the ultimate space where you can restore order. And he mentioned to me that, you know, if you put a lot of pressure to regulator and the professional working within it is not affected in any way or is not flagged by the professional bodies, you just sack him, and the following day he has been employed elsewhere. And he will continue with the business as usual. So I assured him that we had conversation with professional bodies, and there is something we are doing. And I'm glad. I've seen so many summonses by those who are oversighting engineers, those who are oversighting architects, those who are oversighting doctors, asking them questions. Questions that will answer what happened. If a building collapses, whose problem was it? Is it the architect? Is it the structural engineer? Is it the civil engineer? Is it the QS? Who is this that caused that thing? Because it is not the contractor alone. There must be this. A contractor is a combination of several professions that comes into one. So we want to urge professional bodies to be vigilant and to be ruthless. If something happens in the sector or in an activity that your members are participating, they need to answer questions. It does not mean that they are wrong, but they need to answer questions so that we can know where the problem is. South Sea House, I was told, was designed to be 12 floors, no, 2 floors less than what it was. So the question is, who approved the other 2 floors? And whoever approved, did the engineer endorsed? Because if he designed, if the architect designed, if the QS did what he did, if the structural engineer did what we did, to enable a 2-floor less building, who approved the other one? Who inspected the structure? Who designed those 2 floors? These are the questions, so that we need majority of those professionals to step aside and even be banned for life if they make a mistake that costs life or that cost to the investors. And it cuts across, whether it is in the medical world, whether it is environment, whatever. We want to hold so that we get an orderly, a consistent, and also a sustainable environment for investors and for our people. We need to be very, very firm on that. And therefore, it has been escalated. Yesterday, it has been now taken over by the Deputy President. And the assurance is there that the government of Kenya will protect your jobs, will stand by you whenever you are confronting these crooks in the sectors that you are regulating. We are again in a space that we are merging towards in Singapore. Those who have traveled abroad, the systems are seamless. You don't have to meet an individual or a human being for something to happen. If you go to Singapore today, you don't go looking around for somebody to come and fix a road because there are potholes. They have inspectors around, there are people running around checking. A small pothole, they are fixed. A small problem on some corner, it has been fixed. So even people from road sector here, I've seen Madam Gumi and the team. Why do we allow roads to develop potholes and it looks like there's nobody? And when we pass there, and I pass severally, you make a phone call, the following day when you are driving back, it has been fixed at night. Is it like you don't have scouts, you don't have people who drives around to ensure that citizens are enjoying your product? That's an example. And same case to several others. People are suffering in hospitals. Where is KMPTC? Where are all these people? Must a senior officer be affected in a way that you respond? Are you working for senior officers in government or billionaires in Kenya, so that you wake up and somehow money will be available and you fix it, or you raid a place because you have had the president complaining? Let us do our job. Let us be guided by the statutes and by international treaties and conventions that we've signed as a country. And let us be stubborn. People will adjust, people will be aligned, and people will even not again remember that they need to break anything. They'll be aligned, they'll be very clear on what they are doing. So it is upon us as regulators to ensure that we stick to our guns and make sure that we enforce the regulations consistently. and let everybody know that this is how things are done in either KEBS, in either NCA, in either KMPTC, either all these people, AFA, whatever. So that people will not have any doubt. We will not say, I know the CEO, just don't mind. If it takes 7 days to apply for something, don't worry, 2 days, I'll just walk to the CEO and things will be done. Let us make it a standard. People should not look for you for anything. They know the rule, they know the game, and they have to play according to the rules of the game. So as we proceed with the deliberation of this conference, which started yesterday, I encourage all of you to remain focused on practical solutions and measurable outcomes. The responsibility before us is clear. We must ensure that regulatory action consistently delivers real, tangible improvements in the lives of Kenyans. The progress made demonstrates that change is possible. The task now is to sustain it, deepen it, and ensure that it translates into lasting impact. We must have answers on one, what will be different after this conference? What will citizens feel differently because of the decision we make here? Whether we are prepared to demonstrate clearly and consistently that government is working. As we proceed with this day and tomorrow, I urge all of us to remain focused, attentive, and deliberate in our engagement. The sessions ahead are critical, and the value we derive from them will depend on the depth of our participation and the quality of the insights we share. I encourage you to contribute thoughtfully and practically, drawing from your experience and the realities within your respective sectors, so that our discussions continue to generate meaningful and actionable income. I want to end there and still assure you, as I always do, and I think I'm predictable also, and I'm consistent. Am I? Yeah, I'm predictable, consistent, and I mean what I say. Let us serve this country. I told you in the first meeting, my first conference, that the so said mkono mrefu wa serikali ni nyinyi. The long arm of the law ni nyinyi. Serikali ni nyinyi. You are government. You are enforcers. You are regulators. That is government. You stabilize the space, you stabilize the economy, you bring order, and you make things work. Don't let down this country. You hear always, many a times, that there is a deep state. The deep state is the regulators. And Mutua said a deep state is a government arm that is never shaken, that never ends. It is perpetual. And it does its things according to practice and the laws of the land. That is why they say it is deep, This is like a tree that's very deep roots. It cannot be uprooted by wind or anything. There is a different cadre in government where every 5 years they are either being taken by the wind, either survive or not. But you are a deep state. If you retire today, somebody else will come and continue with that office. If you expire, somebody will come. If you are fired, somebody will be in the office. If you are even sick in hospital, people are praying for you not to come back so that they can occupy the office. Why is it so? It is because the office is permanent. The people are temporary. That is so deep that it never moves anywhere. So I want you to realize that and let us make a difference in this country. Let us support the administration in power and all the administrations that will come. And let us make our so that we make a difference in this generation. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I'm ending, I want to, and be careful of the snake bites because I'm not guaranteeing that. And let us push forward and make this country great. Thank you very much. And by the way, we are going to stay put here until tomorrow media, I think. Is it 11 or 10? Already the AI has moved around.
Let's give the Chief of Staff a better round of applause, please. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Chief of Staff. And I think we all stand guided. And indeed, we do look forward to the chairpersons, CEOs, heads of internal audit, and the corporation secretary, who will serve as the secretary to this standing committee. And Mr. Indimuli is in the house. He will also guide us and yourselves as this steering committee, constituted by yourselves, is put together for unveiling tomorrow morning. Allow me now to invite our next speaker, Dr. Christopher Wanjao, the Chief of Staff, Office of the Deputy President. Let's clap for him as he comes on stage.
Our chief guest today, the Chief of Staff and the Head of Public Service. The Principal Secretary is present, CEOs, Chairman and Chairpersons of Board of Parastatals. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Good afternoon once again. I think before I do my presentation, I'll start by asking a question which